the USA in your Chevrolet. America's asking you to call. Drive your Chevrolet through the USA. America's the greatest land of all. On a highway.
So the first thing I wanted to do was find out why this side all of a sudden started making noises, and then a few moments later the tire blew. Now it would be because we had a failure of the U-joint. And I don't know if there were just no nuts on there or what, but we're gonna have to get a new yoke that goes into the differential. Hopefully the stuff around it there that looks macked up is not permanent. This car rolled nicely to begin with, but it certainly went away from that. And I have to figure out what these extra wires are for along here. Interesting story on the engine is that they knew someone who did galvanization work, and they had the tins galvanized, including the cover on the inside. So things are well protected. I'll have to see if there's any damage. Almost looks like that flange is damaged on the transmission. Hopefully not. Okay, and the other thing we'll be checking is the effect on the bearings from all this flapping around. There is some movement allowed in these bearings, and I don't know if we've exceeded it. It still doesn't seem to grind when it spins, so that's all positive. So as far as interior, get some light. Have not cleaned the interior. The car came with 2 complete sets of blue seats. So that is the better of the 2 front seats in plastic. This would be the original. Over there is a seat back for the back seat. And then sitting over there is the seat bottom for that same back seat. Yeah. All right, so where are we here? Let's start in the front. So between the items that came with the car and some used items and some new items from Jeff, we have what should be everything necessary to put the front end back together. Somewhere, I guess coming still, actually, are gaskets for the headlight buckets. And actually I got the mirror there, it really doesn't go inside, but we've got that harness and a spare, so hopefully that one works. If not, we'll revert back to the spare. What else is going on? Alright, we dug out the fuel door, and on Monza's you got a piece of chrome for protection, but being this is a 700, it was never drilled for that, so more than likely we'll not put that on, or if we do, we'll just put it on with some RTV. What else do we got? Alright, so we've got door handles for the outside, and we've got the gaskets for them. And we've got a window regulator for the front, and I thought, yeah, one for the rear there. We also have got these strips that I'm gonna have to clean up and paint and possibly straighten to they go under on the bottom edge of the window. Then I ordered a full brake system rebuild kit, so we've got all the hard lines here that will replace what's on and under the car. We've got new flex hoses here and the hardware necessary to install them. We've got right, that's for the gas tank. But we've got rebuild kits and pistons for all 4 wheel cylinders and the master cylinder. And then here we've got gas tank sealer to flush out and clean the gas tank. And so I've got this side torn down and ready to do the re-greasing. Let's see, yeah, there we go. Re-greasing of the bearings inside there. So that'll be a project. In order to get to all that, we took apart the entire brake system. So what else is going on? I think that's, oh yeah, all of these, we'll figure out where they go and how they go in, but they would be the strips that fit in there. And on that side, that one's already got one, but it also fits up across the top. So 3 sides of a window. Now, one of the things I'm excuse me, struggling with is this back window here. To me, appears like it's missing some sort of strip, a metal strip, like that metal strip. So hopefully it's in the set of stuff. That'll have to go in, and strangely enough, it's both sides that are missing that. So what else? So of course, my first purchase of getting this car on the road was a set of wheels. That just makes no sense, but being this car's got wheels that came with it. But I love the looks of these, so happened to be on Craigslist, snapped them up. They're off of an 81 Nissan 280ZX Turbo, and they actually have all of their caps, which is sometimes iffy. I'm gonna have to get special lug nuts because the hole that locates the center of the wheel is much larger than the shoulder coming off of the hub. So right in there. So then we'll use the lug nuts to center the wheel on the hub. Pretty much emptied out a box. Again, maybe in that set of stuff there might be a couple of those strips that I'm looking for. It's more wiring, but there is already one in the car. I went ahead and pulled the fuzzies that were in that tube and have installed them on the rear. I've held off installing them on the fronts until I deal with all of this channel stuff, and I was kind of going to get the wing window screwed in and installed first. We've got extra lug nuts here, empty cans of paint. These are all of, it's probably 2 sets complete of the belt line trim, and so we'll go through and pull out the best pieces. Also have 2 complete sets of seats. This one I believe is the one that's been reupholstered, and it goes with one of these seats here. I think it's the one on the bottom. That is original to this car, I believe. It's got a very different pattern on it. And in the back is the original front seat to this car, not been reupholstered. So we've got regulators there for the right side, busting any screws that are holding this. Although this one, yeah, I think this one I guess is just held in by a large nut on here. But regardless, if we can get the hose off and back up in there, we should be able to release that, and that'll allow me to twist it out of the threaded fitting back here. So that is the brake line coming back here, and I had just assumed that I would be replacing brake lines, and I bought a full set. And if the other side looks as clean as this, I'm going to go with no, I don't need to replace them, because John, the previous owner, had them, because that is new. Anyway, still going to replace the hose because it's been sitting for 30 years, and that's just a good idea. But those tubes look, and it's dry inside. When I took them off, nothing came out of the end. We'll see what the inside of the wheel cylinder looks like, but we'll get the hose off. So I've sprayed some penetrating fluid around there, and I'm bolting this backing plate back to the end of the suspension, and that should give me the ability to turn that off. Yep, there it is. Turn that off. All right, got the hose off, and then drove the piston out, and using that hammer and that drift, and I cut the hose so that I could get the round end instead of the open end over the flats of the hex, and that allowed me to not round it off. Let's see if you can see down inside there. It looks pretty good. It had some oil in it, but certainly not very much, just kind of dribbled out. So I've got a hone, and I'll stick it on the drill and clean that up, and then put some new parts. Alright, we'll go with that. Before putting together the wheel cylinder assembly, I took out the bleeder screw, made sure I could take it out without busting it, because sometimes they get seized in there. Anyway, got lucky, got it out after some penetrating fluid on it. I cleaned off the threads, and I'll blow it with compressed air to clean out the passages, lubricate the threads with some brake fluid, and put it in before installing the new parts for the wheel cylinder. Okay, so I got the lock cylinder, the right one, in position in this door. I've put on the gasket here and the gasket there. Then I can just bring it over to the door, and it will go on, and I'll reach on the inside and put the nuts on and tighten them up. Door handle's on. Now let's move on to the regulator. This should be interesting. Contacted Jeff at California Corvair Parts, and he does not have any of these sash pieces that are not currently attached to glass, and he is unwilling to separate them. And so I'm going to just try to make the best out of what I've got. So I removed this piece of inner rubber, and so it goes in with the longer edge towards what I'll call the back, if the front is this open portion of the channel. So I'll go through and very carefully with a small screwdriver remove the rest of them. Okay, false alarm. All of the tinted windows that came out of the parted out wagon have beautiful sash strips on them. These are the front windows here, right and left. And then socked away here is the rear door window. And underneath is another one. And then we still have the clear ones that do not have their sashes. So we're in good shape. Now here's the other rear window. So we can finish putting in the channels that go in here, and then we should be able to finish putting in the handles and the locks. So, and then the regulators go down into the door, and then the window should slide in and engage this track on the back side here. Let's see, here we go. This track here engages with a small plastic wheel that's in the regulator arm to lift it up and down and go back and forth. So let's put this glass back on the stack and then finish putting in the handles and channel pieces. Alright, I cranked the regulator to about halfway and shoved it in that hole, being careful not to scratch up the inside of the door panel, and was able to get it to fall all the way in, and then aligned this crank portion and then rotated it so that these 4 screw holes lined up, and then put in 4 of these. There we go, 4 of these guys, which I thought could have been for the doorknob, but door handle, but they aren't. So I will tighten that down and then move on to actually installing the window, since I got fuzzies there, channel there, and channel up on top. The glass is in, and for those of you watching, you would have said, oh, you can't put the wing window in before you put the main pane of glass in, which means you can't put the fuzzies in until the main glass and then the wing window, because the fuzzies prevent you from getting the wing window back out. So I had to pop the fuzzies out of their first hook in order to free the wing window to get it out of the way. Excuse me. Drop the window down, engage the wheel into the track or the channel. Once the window was in, then I was able to get the wing window back in, and screws there, pop the fuzzies back in. Now the window goes all the way down and all the way up. So we start the adventure of the rear door by installing the knob on the end of the threaded shaft that goes to that pivot, through that rod, and actuates the locking mechanism back in there. So liberally applied WD-40 back in there, and then used a screwdriver to very carefully pry. This, by the way, the screw, you have to put the regulator in first, because one of the screws that holds the regulator is what this pivots on. So with the regulator in place, we've got all these screws in. That screw now is the pivot point for the locking mechanism. So when you lift or push down, it doesn't move a lot, but you can hear it click in and out of place. So the WD-40 did its thing. So we'll leave it unlocked, and now so we have the regulator in. Now the difference with the rear regulator is that it has 2 wheels, one that goes on or in this channel. Alright, I fully greased it. The channel faces outside. The screws are in. The wheel's been lubricated and greased on the outside, lubricated on its where it rolls, engaged in there, the channel's in. So you can put a knob on, and I lubricated many things in the I lubricated many things in the regulator, so hopefully it will continue to spin a little bit nicer than the front ended up being. So we want to get some grease on that wheel and in the channel of the glass, and then we'll put the glass in. Live and learn. So that, there's the finger. So that strip has to be out in order to get the window in. So the window is in. Unfortunately, the window's not in. The window's back over there. The window was in, had to come out because it takes two people, one to hold the window in the opening and one to engage the wheel of the regulator into the channel. So some things have come out in order to facilitate that. So with the rear door window, there are two wheels that go into the channel or track on the sash. There. And one that goes into the piece that screws to the inside of the door. I'm going to attempt to thread these onto the channel with the window out of the track and then feed it and the regulator down in, and we'll see what happens. Alright, it started. So now as I feed the window into the opening, I need to maneuver the regulator body to get it to line up with that opening. So it sounds like a three-arm job. So with those two wheels in the channel, I was able to slide the glass down in and get it to go past the fuzzies and get it engaged with the track as much as possible over in here. There is no channel rubber there. So that's the daughter that was not here to help me. That's why I had to use vice grips and 2 blocks of wood and a towel to keep the window from dropping down while I fished the regulator up into its position over here. And while I'm still holding it now, I need to take care of that piece that goes onto this again and screw it into place. Alright, different plan, because after I got done putting all this together, these had popped out of the track. So with everything screwed into place and the window cranked, these actually do stick up high enough that I can get the window to slide over that and then use them to pull the window down into place. Well, that worked way too easy. Now the trick is to thread this back in. Well, there's a part of me that wonders if I should take the window back out because it was so easy, put that in, because it's not going in easily. So we'll try that now. Alright, so that's the method. But I did have to take the inside fuzzy out. I wouldn't have had to if I had... it was a long story. Anyway, it's out. I shouldn't have had to if I had rolled the window all the way up without put the glass in, rolled the regulator all the way up, then I could have gotten in. But as it was with the glass in the channel, with the regulator wheels in the channel, it was forcing it into the fuzzy and it couldn't go up high enough to get it out. Anyway, I did end up putting in this channel rubber felt first, and then I just put on this strip, which I now have to put the screws back in, but everything else is in. I can get the fuzzy put back in and move on.
Rode along a levee. Performance is sweeter, nothing can beat her. Life is completer in a Chevy. So make a date today to see the USA. See it in your Chevrolet.
Traveling east, traveling west, wherever you go,